Breath allow y'all. Eyes up, but every knee gon' bow y'all. The spirit moved upon the waters, it got life in it. Let there be a firmament and you put lights in it. Sitting above the waters is your footstool. Every tree yielding fruit, that's that good food. You put lights up in the heavens for season and days. And our years too, we trying to get back to them ways. You put life up in the waters, all the moving creatures. Every heartbeat is yours, y'all, we truly need you. I will forgive us, cause sometimes we take this life for granted. Everything belong to you and we can make it vanish.
Answer, because you are that, you are capable, you are gifted, and you are so unique. All of the things that you may hate about yourself are your strengths. It's okay to be soft. It's okay to be opinionated. It's okay to be different. And it's so okay to just be. The world awaits to receive you.
All right. Blessings. Let me get myself on the screen this beautiful AM. Blessings, Levi family. You know, we're trying some new things out on this platform. So you're going to see us pop in at different times. We have different segments. And I've been trying to get to this topic for about 2 weeks, okay? A week in my head and 1 week telling you guys. I had to delay it because there's been so much going on with other topics that we're focused on this channel, such as Dalton and Thornton. So we do have a live tonight, but I said instead of delaying this anymore, I want to talk about it. So let's bring up this trending news topic that is taking over our whole United States. As far this issue is hitting every place in the United States, not just Chicago. But we're going to talk about what's going on in Chicago because now it's starting to turn into a problem. It seems like we already had a problem with gang wars, okay? Now it seems like we're having problems with our gangs allegedly going against the Venezuela's Tren de Aragua. I may be saying it wrong with it, Tren de Aragua. And then we have other gangs that's manifesting in the United States that we're going to talk about in the end. Okay, so let's put this article up because this is what brought it back to my attention. And I'm like, okay, I was following the migrant issue. You're going to see that we're going to create a playlist with all the migrant videos that we have done. Shout out to Rumble. You have mostly all our migrant videos that we have done, you know, because we were, you know, fighting up an uphill battle. So we probably will just show it on our community page on YouTube so you can see what we got going on in Rumble, you know, because we talk about it a little bit uncensored. Just know that this information is for educational purposes only. All of the information that we share is already on a public platform, and we're going to talk about it because we need to make the general public aware. This is not to incite war or to incite any type of violence, but if people are aware of what's going on, they'll be able to take the right steps to get things looked at. Okay, so Chicago gangbangers rage against newly arriving Venezuelan migrants as Tren de Aragua move in. City is going to go up in flames. Now, before we get into this, you remember that's why I wanted you guys to pay attention to what was going on in Haiti, because after a while, the people are, they seem to move towards the direction of taking their own, stance against things when things are not being done by the alleged government, and they're not paying attention to the cries of the people. So that's what happening in Haiti right now, where you have all these young gangs who have gotten together, and some of them, a lot of them have joined the police force. A lot of them have joined the army. I showed you guys a few pictures of my cousin. All his friends is in the army and the service, and they're young. So this is sometimes what happens when issues are overlooked and the people have to kind of take the stance. So our issue is the undocumented migrants that's coming in, and we don't know their background. Okay. And allegedly, as we continue to talk about this, I think in a part 2, I'm going to show you where a lot of these other countries actually released a lot of their prisoners with the guise of them coming to the United States, allegedly. Okay. So until I show you that, I just put allegedly behind it, because you know how I am. I want to show you what I'm talking about. But that was something that I came across. Okay. So let's just get to this a little bit. Chicago, after 20 years in state prison for murder, former gangbanger Tyrone Muhammad never expected to return to the city tough South Side and find Venezuelan migrants and criminal Tren de Aragua gang moving in. But Muhammad, 52, who's gone straight and runs a street patrol and violence prevention program called Ex-Cons for Communities and Social Change, says Venezuela criminal gang flooding shelters, taking over apartment buildings are the last straw for the struggling African American community. He says that they are furious and at seeing government money going to what they call non-citizens. It is impossible to release gang members and criminals into the country through the borders and broken walls and infiltrate them in our community that's already impoverished and broken, Muhammad told the Post last week on Old Block. Okay, so this is kind of an introduction to what's going on. Okay, we do have it's pretty hard for us in an urban neighborhood to even get the resources that is supposed to be allocated to us. So definitely highlighting that in United States is different in different states, but a lot of crime, like people who commit crime or have been locked up, they are shut off from resources. So sometimes that pushed them back into criminality, or they do things like such what this ex-offender did and create social programs to help better his community. All right. So now he's seeing something, and that's something that I mentioned to you. I said, even in Jersey, around where I went to school, I'm like, oh my God, geographics has changed. What's going on here? So this is another article, 3-minute read. This is brought to you by the Western Journal. The Blacks Against Migrant Gang Wars is about to erupt in Chicago, locals say. So it's flaring up. I'm going to put this article up there, and then what we're going to do is kind of do a little flashback to see how this flared up the way that it did. Okay, it was a progression, and we've been paying attention to a lot of different things and things that we need to pay attention to. There's some things that we really don't, but we do, like the puffy this big thing and all of that. These are things that we should pay attention to, but we have to be active and be diverse. That's what we're doing on this page. So let's get to this. Famous icon and power wigs. Hold on, wait. Drafts. What did I say? Famous icons and powder wigs drafted and signed the great document that brought, launched, and fulfilled the American Resolution. So she's talking about I'm like, great wigs. What are they talking about? Them white wigs the judge used to wear. But the hard-edged men who fought for street battles in decades preceding the revolution, including laborers for practical business and restraining tyranny, has always engaged in efforts that doom the historical adversary. Okay, let's get to this. What is they talking about? Let's get to the point. Okay. With this in mind, he just a bunch of BS. He's talking about our Constitution and then talking about the people who fight tyranny. I'm like, what does it got to do with anything? Nice opening. With this in mind, the ongoing migrant invasion in the United States have potential to enlist a new generation of freedom-loving revolutionaries in places like Chicago, where, according to the New York Post, the situation could soon erupt into what one ex-convict calls blacks against migrants. So this is another article about Tyrone Muhammad. And it says, when the black gangs here get fed up of the illegalities and criminal activities of these migrants or non-citizen, the city of Chicago is going to go up in flames, and there will be nothing the National Guard or the government can do about it when the bloodshedding hits the streets. It's been blacks against migrants, he said, the former gang member who served 20 years in prison for murder. This is Muhammad. Okay, so now I told you a little bit about him and his stance. Let me see what he says. He says, having endured the migrant invasion under President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, Muhammad support the former President Donald Trump. I'm just putting that out there. It's not so much Trump itself. It's the Democrats are selling us down the river. So you see what I'm saying? It seems like black people are forced. They feel forced to go over to the Republican side. You know, some people are just going over there because they like Trump. You know, his way of talking about sovereignty, freedom, self governance, and things like that. But there are some social issues, injustice that has been taking place under Trump. We have another trending topic that we're going to talk about coming up this week. There has been a series, and I'm not directly connecting it to Trump being in office, but this has happened prior and just at the beginning of his election, where there was a series of alleged not hangings. I'm calling it not hangings because they say these people did it by way of you know what. So that's going to be something that we talk about, and I may talk about it more deeply on Rumble because there is a new case that's going on that I want to bring to your attention that's starting to make way in relation to that. Okay, so we're going to get into why I believe people are moving towards the Republican side on another broadcast, but as he said it's not so much Trump himself. It is literally people are running from the Democratic Party because they see that all of the promises that they have for them was literally shucking and jiving. And for the last few elections, there haven't even been any actual topics that I can say that the Democrats had directly focusing on the black community. Okay. I'm just going to be honest. I don't really remember, even when you had Ice Cube going around with the plan for Black America, it wasn't any other plans that were put up like, hey, well, we are the Republicans and we do have plans for the black community, yada, yada, yada. I do remember when he had that plan, Trump did talk to him. And as I mentioned, when Trump talked to him, then all the black community got mad and thought that he was, just being a Republican. They felt like they should not talk to Republicans. So now we're seeing this big shift. It went from, what are you doing with them now? Oh, we can't deal with the Democrats. So what I want to talk about in the next up and coming months is realistically looking at what situation we're in both parties, what they have brung, what they have taken away, what has happened. Okay, so the black community don't just go with an emotional vote, and come up with a plan. But let's keep this conversation going because these are some of the things that the black community is bringing up to the public attention. Okay. It's immigration issues. So I did share this on another broadcast because we did an intro to this, but I want you guys to remember that this is allegedly going on. Okay, let's play this.
Your own fact sheet, it allows, and I quote, non-citizens without appropriate.
Again, I want y'all to listen to it.
It's crazy if you're not aware of this.
Doing though, in January of this year, you rolled out a new phone app called CBP1, an app for a cell phone. I've got a picture of it behind me here. This phone app allows, and I'm going to quote from your own fact sheet, it allows, and I quote, non-citizens without appropriate documents for admission to schedule an appointment to come to the border. They can now go on their phone and schedule a time to come to the border and then be admitted. And you identified 7 separate border points of entry where they could come. 5 of them in Texas, 2 of them in California, 1 in Arizona. It's like a concierge service for illegal immigrants. My question is, you didn't think the border crisis was bad enough that now we're going to have an app that allows illegals to schedule their appointments and come and be admitted to this country?
This is crazy.
All right, so I actually want to find out what Senate meeting this was, so I can look at the full Senate meeting and see, because I know it's much more that he talked about, but this right here in itself is alarming. Okay, we never had an app that provide resources for us as Americans to get funds and to sign up for housing. That would be a great idea for the homeless in America. Okay, they gave them a bunch of phones. They gave them a bunch of phones, and you could get that through welfare. So I just don't understand how a program like that is rolled out right now, allegedly. Now this I'm going to say it's not allegedly, because that is a Senate meeting. So I'm just going to find out which one it was, and then we're probably going to dig into it on our series on what's going on with the migrants in America. But this is kind of started a conversation. So I want you guys to remember some of the resources or some of the things that I share with you guys, so y'all can go and look for it yourself and also add to the conversation, because we need to talk as adults here, realistically, without emotion, without, the gang mentality, and really figure things out. Because the next thing that I'm going to show you, which has been taken as basically a negative thing, these people felt very disrespected and felt afraid that some migrants had actually showed up at their house, knocking on their door, and then allegedly the migrants flipped it on them and said, I'm going to call the cops on you. So I'm going to let you listen to this. This is someone, Chicago 38th and California migrants. Let's play this.
Yeah, see here, this is Sacramento and 37th place.
And I already had it where they're already knocking on my door saying they're from Venezuela and they want food and they want work. And I say no, and then they get all offended. And it's just beginning now. That happened to me last week. All the families where I live at, they're knocking on the doors. I told a gentleman in Spanish, you cannot be knocking on the door. He said, I'm going to call the police, and you're threatening me. How am I threatening you, sir? I'm telling you, you can't.
Because a lot of these gates have private fences on the front of the gates.
And they open it up and go knock on the door.
You're supposed to not go onto somebody's property. Well, a lot of these people that are around here that are begging and stuff like that will open the gates and come in, and they know they're not supposed to be doing that. And I think what happened was,
Mr. Taxpayer, that's what happened to me 3 days in a row.
He had somebody come to his door begging and stuff, probably feeding him some kind of story. And when he said no and shoot him off of his property and told him in Spanish, hey, go away, man, I don't want you on my property. Then he goes to the neighbor's property, tries to start opening the fence on the neighbor's property.
I followed him. He went almost 6 blocks one way and then turned around, went another 6-7 blocks the other way. He went from east to west, then north a little bit to south. Then he got in an SUV. There were 7 of them in a vehicle, and then he drove away. So either they were scoping out the area for the future, or to me, they were up to no good. But that's just my opinion. And I watched them for 3 days.
So there's people in these areas and stuff that are taking advantage of the situation. There may be some innocent people here that, don't belong here. They didn't come here illegally. They don't belong here no matter what. At the end of the day, illegal is illegal. Does that mean I don't have a heart and I don't sympathize? Of course I do. But at some point, you guys have to, look at the situation and agree that it has to be America first.
Amen to that. And another thing, I worked hard all my life. So did my parents. If the migrants come here, let them work, let them pay to the American tax dollar, let them get their dreams. But 20% of all of them are coming to do bad.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to start right here. As I told you, everything that we share is for information and educational purposes only. We're sharing you the resources that we see. So you take this and you make your own opinion. We're not saying that immigrants is bad, migrants is bad. As you know, a lot of people who talk about this and as we go through this are actually immigrants. migrants. Like I talk about this, and my family migrated over here. My grandmother migrated over here from Haiti. Okay. Both of my grandmothers, one migrated from Barbados and one from Haiti, and they both did it correctly. And so God be the glory. They both, went through Ellis Island, and I'm here, but with that goes to say they came in the right way, took their time, got their background check, got the big old shots on their arm, whatever that was, and came in and got into the workforce and paid taxes and did it correctly. And that is the problem. That is what people are saying. So this is happening across the board. Like it's not a color thing. It is American thing at this point. So we're going to get into a few other videos. Migrants in Chicago Park shelter to be displaced. Now, this is kind of flashing back. This is about 5 months ago. We're going to hopefully I got it still in order. But what we're seeing is that it seems like the border's open. I'm saying it seems like, but we already know what it is. The border's pretty much open. There's a lot of allegations of criminals coming over. Allegedly, they're bringing kids and trafficking them. These type of things are happening. And it was so bad that in one of the broadcasts that we shared with you, that Texas was literally starting their own National Guard. That is something that I'm going to try to link into here because I don't have that clip. But it was about 8 months ago where they was starting to have seminars to actually teach the citizens how to act like the militia in all words. And they were not playing. They was like, no, we're going to hunt people down and we're going to get them out. Okay, so as this is happening, you have the borders open and they're saying, come in, we can help you. Then we see what's going on with the shelters, because I'm going to talk a little bit about the shelters. So let's get into where we had them placed. It was so bad that some of them were even placed in police departments. If y'all remember that there was a migrant takeover of a police department, and I believe it was in Chicago. And then it was like allegedly some stabbings that happened there. They were stabbing each other. I don't know what the hell is going on with them, but this wasn't right. All right, so let's play this. Thank you for being here with Grace this morning. If this is a good time to go over this type of news, let me know. Put your comment at the bottom. We're trying to figure out where we are going to place some of our segments. So I said, hey, let me do this early today and, get more of a different audience here. So we span our horizons. Let's go.
City Council Committee on Immigration and Refugee Rights will meet as the city grapples with the growing migrant crisis. This comes as the city's mayor announced that beginning this Saturday, hundreds of migrants will be displaced as temporary shelters will be set up in parks. Those will close. For more on this story, bring in Monica Ang. She is a Chicago reporter for Axios. Thanks for being with us, Monica. Before we speak about today's meeting, I want to ask about the current migrant situation in Chicago today. What does this look like?
Well, we've got about 10,300 migrants living in 23 shelters. Yeah. On Saturday, the mayor will close 5 of those shelters. We have a rolling, the city doesn't like to call them evictions, but rolling timeout periods where people will have to leave the shelters. Dozens may be leaving over the next few weeks, possibly thousands over the next month. We have a measles outbreak where we have 31 cases, most of them concentrated in a West Side Pilsen shelter. And so lots of moving parts.
So where are these migrants being moved to?
Well, that's a really good question. The ones that are leaving the parks will be moved to other shelters, but those who have simply timed out on their time at the shelters will have to get to the back of the line in what's called the landing zone, where the migrants arrive when they come to Chicago. We've got about 10 who are in the landing zone today awaiting shelter.
So, Monica, the city's council meeting on immigrant and refugee rights, as we mentioned, is happening today. Walk us through what's on the agenda.
Well, they'll be looking at how the measles crisis has been affecting shelters. There are new rules about mandatory vaccinations before you enter a shelter. They're vaccinating people when they arrive at the landing zone. They're going to be looking at this 60-day rule about what, if any, modifications can be made to it. They've now made modifications where if you're a family You can get extensions, you can get exceptions to the 60-day rule. If you are in quarantine because of your vaccinations, you can get exceptions. Most of the people who are being asked to leave now are single men.
So let's ask about how people are feeling about the influx of migrants in Chicago. And could that sentiment influence response from local government?
Yeah, I think it will. Loyola University recently did a big study of more than 2,000 people across Cook County. And what they found is that more than 70% did feel that the migrant crisis is affecting the government's ability to help current residents, but that they still, do want to offer help. And they broke it down by demographics. What you found is younger people, Democrats, women, and Asians all were more sympathetic and were more willing to help migrants than other groups. And that kind of, pushed against some of the sentiments, because we saw one Asian American community push back against having a migrant facility in their area.
You see what I'm saying? If you're talking about the Asians allegedly supported, and then when they come to their area, they like, So this has been an ongoing conversation, especially highlighting that they have an issue housing these migrants. And it's so crazy because they're talking about closing shelters, and we don't even have enough shelters for the American citizens. So make it make sense. It don't really make sense to me. You see what I'm saying? And then they have this revolving door that's happening where they're jumping from shelter to shelter. And then if they are, what did they say? Basically, if they have maxed out, they have to start again and go back to the original settlement place. This will, I'm talking as these people are human. This will get anybody frustrated. Okay. So that level of frustration you see is starting to build up in the migrants. And we're going to show you a little bit more about in showing you the behavior that's captured out there amongst them, and some of the crimes. I think I have some of the crimes that has been committed possibly in other states, because I try to keep this focus on Chicago, so you could kind of get a timeline of what's going on. But they said at this time, this was 5 months ago, it was 10,323 shelters. 10,300. That's at about around in Cook County. Okay. This is turning into a major issue. Last thing I want to highlight, if y'all did not pay attention to what they said most of the migrants that they were putting out, if they put out first, are men, are young men. So what do you think is going to happen when these young men are out and about? No money, no place to stay. It's cold. Things like this start to spark up. Let's get into this article. Tren de Aragua gang started. So this is the foundation of Tren de Aragua. Okay, so you can kind of get an idea about them. I mentioned this so many times. It's dangerous. I've been around people who they call gangbangers, thugs. I grew up in Newark. I'm like, God has prepared me so much for the rough times that's coming up. So I could just look and see who's who, what's what. Compared to what I have researched about the Venezuela and the MS-13 and their behavior, it is on a level 10 when it comes to the migrants' gang behavior. I do think there's a lot of like mixed into satanic worshiping in their religion they put into this. Honestly, I'm going to give you an example. I may have been reading into a little bit, but when I was in Jersey, I was in the park, and the park is pretty much being taken over by all of the Spanish people. They out there doing their soccer, they doing all types of stuff. And I'm looking at them, they had Zumba going on and everything. And I'm like, damn, we don't do all of that. But they got the whole half of the side of the park. So we kind of on the other side. Honestly, I'm seeing the separation. So we on the other side of the park. It's a bunch of black people, we all in the parking lot playing music, relaxing. And then you see these young boys kind of walking back and forth. And I'm looking, I'm like, yo, they all got black on. Why all of these Spanish kids got black, 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 black? And then you're seeing crosses on them. You're seeing crosses. You're seeing Santa Maria things on them. And it's it's a group of them. So in my head, I know gangs. I'm like, yo, they gotta be part of a gang because I see how they carry themselves. Some of the young boys is on the weekend, got a book bag on their back. You already know what's going on. So I'm keeping my eye out for those type of things. And those things you need to realize when you want to understand the psychological foundation of these gangs. It's a little different. I think it's a little demented, what I'm trying to say. We're going to get into it in later broadcasts so you can understand, but let's just talk about them. Venezuela. So they started in a Venezuela prison and now spread fear in the United States. So this is brought to you by AP News. Okay. Former federal agent Wes Tabar says his phone has been lighting up with calls from police departments around the United States for advice on how to combat the growing threat from the Venezuela gang Tren de Aragua. Tabar was in charge of the United States Drug Enforcement Administration office in the Venezuelan capital of Caracas in 2012, when the gang was still new and when Tabar had barely heard of it. So yes, 2012. I can say they were here too at that time. I got a story about them, I think, but it was the MS-13. Venezuela had long been a major transit zone for cocoa powder smuggling by Colombian, with a leftist government that had close ties to some of the American top advisories from Iran to Russia. I'm reading this, guys. We find the stuff. This is something to think about. So the homegrown street gang, although a concern to the U.S. Embassy personnel in their daily movements around Venezuela's dangerous capital, was not considered a major security risk to the United States. Now, more than a decade later, the gang has become immense even on American soil and has exploded in the U.S. Political campaign aiming a spree of kidnapping, extortion, and other crimes throughout the Western Hemisphere tied to mass exodus of Venezuela migrants. What set this group apart is its level of violence, said Tabar. Now retired from the DEA, they're aggressive, they're hungry, and they don't know any boundaries because they've been allowed to spread their wings without any constriction from law enforcement until now. That's why they're not afraid of law enforcement. If you paid attention to what was happening in New York, they were fighting the officers. They were literally beating up the officers. I lie to you not. Okay. So that's because they did not have that sense of a controlled government. And as mentioned before, I said that's the same thing that happens with other migrants from other countries that come here unlawfully, because they're not. I'm telling you, my grandmother, my family, we didn't come here on this type of time. You see what I'm saying? We came here not on borrowed time, came here, did it the right way. So the mentality is different. So I just want you guys to just kind of look at it. Okay, where they came from a lawless place. But what I'm saying is not all people who came from a lawless place is lawless, because I'm giving you an example. You see, it's about the heart, just to be honest. Okay, so that's starting to change. In July, the Biden administration sanctioned the gangs, placing it along MS-13 from El Salvador. That's another gang that I kind of want to just show you about. I'll probably just bring that one because that was the last one I want to show you. But since they bring up MS-13, I want you to know who is MS-13. El Salvador. And the mafia-style Camorra from Italy. So we got Italian gangs, we got Salvadorian gangs, and we got Venezuelan gangs coming in here. Okay. Not to scare you, but you got to know what's going on. Okay. So on the mafia style Italian gangs on the list of transitional criminal organization and offering 12 million in rewards for the arrest of 3 leaders. Then this month, the Texas governor, Gary Abbott, declared Tren de Aragua a tier 1 threat. Okay. So when was this? What this was September 24th. Hold up. This was updated that day. I want to know exactly when this was put out there, because they were already on it with Texas. As I mentioned, they were not playing. They basically was creating their own militia. They're saying they following the Constitution. If allegedly the government is tyrant or the government can't handle what's going on, the people should come together like a militia. Allegedly. That is part of our Constitution. I'm just letting y'all know what they doing out there in Texas. Texas not here to play; they here to slay. Okay. It was a point, if y'all remember, before Texas had that big flood. And I'm just kind of throwing some stuff out there. If y'all remember, they wanted to separate it from the United States. Do y'all remember that? Okay. Maybe it had nothing to do with this topic, but I want you guys to kind of just keep that in the back of the head. Texas is very independent. They have a lot of gold out there too, as well. They can sustain themselves economically. So, Venezuela, hold on. Let me go. MS-13. Hold on, where I left my track out. Okay, here we go. So, then this month, Texas Governor Greg Abbott declares Tren de Aragua Tier 1 threat, directing state police to target the gang and pave the way for stiffer penalties for the members. Other states may soon follow suit. Gangs notary in the United States. Focus on the gang jumping focus on the gang jumped after footage from a security camera surfaced on social media showing a group of heavily armed men entering an apartment in Denver suburb, Colorado. That prompted former President Trump to vow to liberate Aurora. That's the name of the place. From Venezuela, he has falsely said were taken over the whole town. Now, if y'all look into that one, there was a video that went viral about that. And the cops said one thing after allegedly going to the building, talking to the people who lived there. They said that they wasn't paying the rent to the Venezuelans. We saw what was going on. But then on the other hand, you had residents in the area saying, no, they lying. They're lying. This is what's really going on. And they don't know how to handle it. So they don't want to say it's a problem, allegedly. You know, I listen to everybody. I don't just listen to the mainstream. I listen to people who are living there and be like, hey, I'm stressing. This was going on. You know, you get those TikToks and stuff. So it's two different narratives about what's going on out there in Colorado. But this is some of the things that I mentioned on my prior lives, that they were dropping the migrants in the Democratic areas, the urban areas. And I was like, they're not going to stay there. I said, they're not going to stay there with us. Once they see that we're in poverty, it ain't much resources, and we pretty much scrapping as we go, they're going to move to more of these suburban areas. And because that's where they have all the trinkets, all the good things. Okay. So that's what started to happen. So amongst them, the Venezuelans who was arrested in another Denver suburb and accused of helping someone else steal a motorcycle and pointing an AR-15 at a truck driver who had asked him to move his car. Did y'all hear that? All right. I'm glad Georgia's an open carry state, but because people out here kind of hesitant to do things like that because they don't know if you have a gun. So I'm telling you, open carry states, to be honest, they have less violence than the ones that are not. So this is crazy for him to pull out an AR-15 on a tow trucker who told him to move his car. Another was suspected of stealing designer Gucci sunglasses, and has a multiple state criminal record, including carjacking and vehicle assault. So this is some of the things that's going on. The size of the gang and the extent to which its actions are coordinated across the state lines and with the leaders believed to be outside of the United States is unclear. All right, so I just wanted to start the shit. You know, we just kind of getting to know who we dealing with. Now, what I'm going to do is bring up MS-13. Oh my God, this is different. This is going to throw me off. Let me not do the MS-13 real quick. We're going to wait to the end because this is a article. Well, this is basically a clip that I got. Whistleblower says, I was fired by the HHS for investigating MS-13 trafficking of migrant kids. Do y'all want to watch a little bit of that? Okay. We can. This is from the Rising Sun. Let's watch this. Okay. Just a few minutes of it. Shout out to the Rising Sun. We're going to put it on a screen so you can. This is kind of backing up what I was saying about the alleged X trafficking that's starting to heighten. That's why you gotta teach your kids. Say, hey, protect them, pay attention, because before it was more about coercion. Let's say that, you know, where young girls get lured into it, it was majority of that, and they'll say that they were runaways, and that's why the kids wasn't looked behind. But now it's getting aggressive, like people getting Uber jobs, doing stupid stuff, taking females. You see what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is just be aware. Talk to your teenager, your family, your wives. If they got an Uber, people supposed to know where they're going, who they're going with. Share your Uber driver with people. This is what I always tell my kids, my son, my daughter, when they were doing it. Let me see the Uber driver. Let me see the picture. And if I'll come wave to the person like, hey, like I see you. Things like, listen, we have to stick together. So some of this is happening. So a whistleblower allegedly, Tara Rodas, she is a HHS whistleblower. Let's hear what she has to say about reporting this. Now, this is MS-13. So I'm just giving you a little intro to MS-13 real quick, and we're going to get back to what's going on in Chicago. But these are the people that's here. And I didn't even know about the Italian gang, guys. I'm kind of like digging into it more as I go. I didn't even know. Okay? It's getting ridiculous. Let's go.
Is appalling. It is shameful.
Yes.
And people just don't realize that the children who show up at the border alone, these children are here alone. They're very vulnerable. And then we're shipping them to criminals, traffickers, and members of transnational criminal organizations like MS-13 and 18th Street Gang and other cartels. Honestly, had I not seen it myself, I could not believe that the U.S. government has become the middleman in a child trafficking operation.
So
allegedly, but let her talk for herself, okay?
When you say child trafficking operation, you're talking about what happens to them when they actually.
And shout out to the raising the hill is the hill. I watch them sometime. I used to watch it more when the Chinese lady was up there, but you know, I keep my news broadcast watching very, very diverse. So you guys going to see a lot of different news broadcasters here that I present to you from all around the world. Y'all wouldn't even believe half of the things that I watch to get information. Okay, I want to share with you guys.
Get here to the U.S. or the process of coming over the border.
Yeah, the process of them coming over the border. The children were telling us they were being recruited by bad actors here in the United States saying, hey, if you come here, instead of making $2.50 a day in Guatemala, this was a real case that I worked on. Instead of $2.50 a day, I'm going to pay you $6 an hour.
Let's stop right there. I just got to go to the left, y'all. Doesn't it sound a little bit about like Epstein? Don't it sound like a little bit of Epstein going on there? And there is, I'm going to show y'all in my reels. I got this clip, and is people kind of putting it together allegedly. But there is this entrepreneur who's supposed to have been really close to, I think, Jay-Z. And this entrepreneur where he was showing people how to invest in land, and he bought all this land for his 13-year-old son or something like that. And it was at the border. And nobody really thought about it like that until now, because all of this stuff happening. But it was literally like the borderland. You know what I'm saying? Like, not destitute, but if you see how the border is, it's like cactuses, all types of shit. They be going through it. And he bought a big piece of land for his kid. And someone made a TikTok about it, basically saying allegedly to have closer ties to the trafficking in young girls that's coming. Okay. So that's why we do have to pay attention to what's going on to like conspiracies like Puffy a little bit and Epstein a little bit, because they all have connections to what we see happening in a political field. Boom. Point taken. You see how kind of just putting some things together like, oh, wow, this is a little weird. Let's go.
Now you have to stay with me until your debts are paid. So the children we knew were in debt bondage. They were telling us that, and they were not able to leave the sponsor until the debts were paid.
What role does the immigration crisis play in cartels being able to move these children across the border?
That is a very great question that should be asked of the Secretary of DHS and HHS. because right now they're not information sharing at all. In the past, HHS would share the sponsor name with DHS, so they could actually look to see if these people were criminals. Now that information sharing has been completely cut off. So that's one major thing that has contributed to this crisis. The other thing is HHS, because they're not investigative, they're not law enforcement. They have no idea how to properly train people to look for trafficking concerns.
Now, I'm stopping here because it's something that was brought to my attention. There was this crazy video, Alex Jones, and I was like, what the hell is he doing? They always doing something. So he was in front of this adoption agency, allegedly. And I'm going to show y'all the clip, not today, but I have it. I think it's from one of my old broadcasts. It's there because I showed it, where it's on Rumble, where, because you do show him, you in trouble. Okay, but basically he was yelling at the people coming out of the adoption agency, saying, why do you have these kids in the back of the van in the trunk? There was a van outside and the kids were getting into the trunk, not the back seat. And the guy was like, and he was like, what are you doing with them? Where are they going? Who are you? Where are you taking them? You're trafficking these kids. He was yelling at them like, this is what you're doing, and saying that they were taking groups of kids and just giving them to people. It was another video that I came across where they confronted a few people at the airport with a group of kids that looked at migrant, and it was one like adult, they call them a sponsor, and the sponsor did, or it's a worker for the government that's supposed to be taking it to their sponsor. So what she's saying is that they don't even have the knowledge or the know-how to, one, investigate the people who they're giving these kids to, two, even orchestrate a program that is adequate enough for their staff to look at the telltale signs to see, oh, this is suspect. They were saying basically that at that airport situation that they were taking those group of kids to be allegedly, you know what I'm saying, sold. Okay, so those are some of the things that I already have out in Rumble from last year. What I'm going to do is just tag it down at the bottom of the video. I'm going to be a little bit better with my description and breaking up our lives content. Okay. But I have that. I have those clips. And I was like, what the hell is Alex Jones doing? Jiggy is always doing something, but now it makes sense. Now it makes sense. It makes sense.
So they have no business taking children into their care, releasing them into the United States to people they've never seen, to homes they've never visited. We would never allow this sort of horrific treatment to happen to children here in the United States. And we need to stand up. This is not a political issue. We need to stand up for these children. They have nobody. They have nobody once they get here. And many of them cannot even speak Spanish. So those who come here speaking Spanish have some help, right? We have some law enforcement and people who can speak Spanish, but many of these children speak Mayan dialects. They're very indigenous Mayan dialects like Quiche, Quechua, and Hmong. They have no way to ask for help. They become victims, captive victims of their sponsors.
So let me going to stop right there, because this is another side to the migrant issue. It's not just, criminals coming by, and they're taking groups of kids with them. They're luring people who are in bad situations, just how allegedly Epstein was doing in Florida. Like, hey, you making $2 there, you can make $500 an hour. Just come with us, okay? And that's what they're doing. And then say that you're in debt, you have to pay us off. Look all the beautiful things that I got you, this, that, and the third. And this was happening slowly in the United States before this. I've seen this take place in the workforce. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to share this clip with you guys so y'all can watch this later on. But I saw this in the workforce. Basically, when I first became a nurse, I was working at this nursing home, and there were Filipinos that worked there as techs. So at night, it would be me with 3 Filipino techs, and I fell in love with them. They were amazing, hardworking people. But something dawned on me. I worked 3 days a week, and how every 3 days a week for the last couple of months, I see y'all. It's no way that we have the same schedule. And it's only 3 of y'all working. So are you telling me that you work every day? One day I really had to sit there. I'm laying at the nurse station, and I'm like, damn, come here. Do you work every day? Oh yeah, we work every day. So I said, when do you take a vacation? Because look, because the lady wasn't feeling well. That's what made me notice. I'm like, you're not feeling well. You could take a nap. Take a nap. I'm not gonna say anything. You're fine. And then I started to hone in, like, what the hell is going on? Why can't she just take time off? They were working every day. They were basically on a work visa with the company that I work for, and they were housing them back and forth to the job. They will take them to Walmart to go shopping. They made sure that all the internet and things were working, but they had to pay off their visa dues that was directly taken out of their paycheck. I don't think they was receiving the right pay rate, but I can't verify that. And then whatever money was left over, they was getting it to send it to their family. Okay. And it was wearing on tearing on them, because I asked them, I said, how long have you been working here? One said like 13 years, and one said like 11 and 7. I said, wait a minute. And your visa didn't get paid off yet? Your visa didn't get paid off yet? This was 11 years ago when I first became a nurse. So this was some of the undermining things that were going on in our immigration, as far as companies allegedly enslaving. So I know it's not virtually impossible to what they're talking about. Does that make sense? And then I'm going to share one more story. My uncle, he was a federal agent, and this is what made my uncle who passed away. This was what made me and him finally connect after all these years. It's probably like 6 years ago, allegedly, and it's not allegedly. He worked for the immigration service in New York or something like that, and they had a flood and they had drop ceilings. He said that basically it was a flood, the pipes bust, and all of a sudden all the drop ceilings just dropped down, and it was a bunch of files and paperwork of people who visas were needing to be processed on hold, things like that. And he was like, the more they investigated, the more he found that it was corruption. They were companies were paying for certain people to get their visas, which were pushing people back. It was just so much corruption, and it really opened his eyes. And that's when me and him started talking. And when she started making sense, that he stopped calling me a renegade, because I was asking those real questions. I said, I see something wasn't right. So it was people within the government that were doing deals with businesses, people, whatever. It was a pay for play. So what they're talking about right now is not far-fetched to me, because I already heard of something that was already wild and brewing years ago. Okay. So now let's get into this. I'm going to start moving the broadcast along, because it says FBI agent, other warns of Venezuelan gangs entering United States. And this was 7 months ago. Okay. So the warnings has been there, but we have been paying attention to other stuff. This is just a 3-minute clip. I'm going to start getting through these clips, y'all. But this is a 3-minute clip, so y'all can see what's going on. Who the hell? Channel 9.
And now to a story you will only see here on 9. The FBI says a Venezuelan gang called Tren de Aragua has made its way to the borderland.
Well, the group has spread throughout South America and now into our communities. Officials say they pose a local threat to families. Here's more.
The fastest growing transnational criminal organization known as the Tren de Aragua is a Venezuelan gang that has now infiltrated its way into the United States through various sectors of the U.S.-Mexico border.
That here in El Paso, Tren de Aragua, gang members who are identified.
He said it worse than me. He said Tren de Aragua. I understand. I'm like, Agua? What's their name?
Are put into prosecution pathways for 1325 illegal entry into the United States.
According to a CNN report from Border Patrol, 38 suspected members from the Tren de Aragua have been arrested between 2022 and 2023.
When they come to a new place, they do it oftentimes through immigrant pathways, taking advantage of people from within their own community.
Tren de Aragua is taking advantage of the mass Venezuelan exodus to make their way into the country, and now they are ramping up crime in U.S. cities like Miami and Chicago.
They typically operate mostly on migrant smuggling and human trafficking. Those are the.
So now we're kind of getting into how they got here and what are they MO. So this is why this broadcast is going to be very informative, because now you're going to have a full picture of what's going on, mindset, who people are, and for you just to be aware and vigilant. So this is what they focus in on.
They're too big. Typically operate mostly on migrant smuggling and human trafficking. Those are their two big criminal enterprises.
But why exactly are they a threat to the borderland?
They also use forms of extortion by going to local businesses that are owned by these migrant communities. And if they don't pay a tax, they extort that money from them.
This can bring an increase in crime into our community, including human smuggling and sex trafficking.
And so the same thing what's happening in South America is now going to start happening here in the United States amongst these Venezuelan communities in the U.S.
Now, they thought it was just going to be amongst the Venezuelan communities in the U.S., but it is not. It is what we had showed you, that they are going to regular suburban areas and turning over and taking over buildings, okay? We're going to start showing you just a few more so we can get through this broadcast. Ghost criminals, how Venezuela gang members are slipping into the U.S. So this is a little bit more about, and they're calling them ghost criminals, okay, because they're not documented. You don't know actually what they have done. There were a few, or someone mentioned that one of the guys who were caught in New York, he was not wanted in Venezuela, but he already committed murders out there from his background, okay?
New warning from law enforcement that among the record number of migrants that have crossed into the U.S. are members of a Venezuelan street gang. NBC News learning there are more than 100 Homeland Security investigations involving suspected members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, according to 2 DHS officials. In the past week, the NYPD says a suspected member of the Venezuelan gang shot 2 of its officers.
So we know that he entered the country illegally.
NBC News has learned the gang is suspected in criminal cases in at least 5 states. In one case, 3 Tren de Aragua gang members who crossed the border here in Texas in the last year threatened 2 Venezuelan women and said they would kill their family members if they did not cooperate in a sex trafficking ring, according to court documents. The women ended up in Baton Rouge, and police say they were forced to have sex with up to 4 men a day in this apartment building. How big of a threat is Tren de Aragua?
I mean, they are a grave threat.
The NYPD's Assistant Chief Jason Savino tells us they often know very little about the gang members.
I've heard it referred to almost as a ghost criminal. Everything about that individual could potentially be misrepresented.
And why does that make them dangerous?
Because if you come here and we can't even track you, we're not even sure of who you are.
All of it adding to the growing questions about the vetting process at the border. Venezuela is one of several countries that will not share criminal records of its citizens with U.S. authorities doing migrant background checks.
Whoa. I'm sorry, I had to pause it right there. Let me let this play.
Because we cannot validate their criminal record history, typically, unless we get it from Interpol or they already have a criminal record inside the United States, we won't know who they are.
The vast majority of migrants have no criminal background.
They don't have, vast majority don't have a criminal background because y'all don't know it. So you see how they say that? And they say that, but we don't know what their background is. And I did not know Venezuela will not share their criminal records with the United States. That's dangerous.
Former President Trump is calling attention to recent high-profile crimes police say were committed by migrants.
Migrant crime, it's a new category of crime.
An NBC News review of both administrations' track records reveals roughly 64,000, or 2% of migrants encountered in the Trump administration were found to have criminal records. Under the Biden administration, more than 103,000, or 1% of migrants, were found to have criminal records.
I'm done. I'm not even going to answer that on them statistics because they seem bogus to me, especially based on the technicality that you have hundreds of thousands that's coming from a country that won't even give you a background. So they need to stop. They really do need to stop that. Okay. I didn't know Venezuela was getting down like that. They mad at us. I told y'all, go research what happened to Venezuela and how we were involved allegedly in a coup out there that broke them economically. Okay, so let's get into this because this is what I had talked about prior to when they were having a DNC in Chicago and how I said the migrants were going to go there and they were going to protest. The migrants are getting upset. Some of them feel like we owe them. Let's listen. So they started a protest. Venezuelan migrants in Chicago rallied for change on day of election. Let's play this.
Election day in Venezuela, where the outcome of that election could result in ripple effects that could affect thousands of Venezuelan migrants here in Chicago. Let's get live to our Andrew Ramos. He's live from the Mag Mile, where a rally was held earlier today, bringing attention to this critical election around here, Andrew.
That's right, Chris. And many of those local Venezuelans who came out say they were really coming out to support friends and family back home. As they say, there is so much riding on this election where it will very likely determine if people decide to leave or stay in their homeland.
Now, many of those who turned out Sunday came in support of the opposition leader, Edmundo Gonzalez, who they hope will end the 12-year rule of President Nicolas Maduro. Now,
Nicolas Maduro is a alleged tyrant.
Have been growing concerns over voter fraud and whether they'll be able to have a fair and free election.
And allegedly Maduro, whatever his name is, was allegedly pushed in by our government. Allegedly. And they've been working to get him out since then. 12 years. Does that sound like what was going on in Haiti, where we couldn't get the ambassador out after they already unalived the president? Do you see? Does it sound familiar? 12 years being a dictator, and allegedly he was put in there. As I told you, something is connected to the United States that in him and their economic system I need y'all to pay attention to. So they're saying that election will basically affect how much more migrants would have been coming here.
Now, Maduro's 2018 re-election was considered by many, including the United States, as fraudulent. Now, the current president and his United Socialist Party of Venezuela has become incredibly unpopular.
They said it was fraudulent, but you need to do the research because it was allegedly our EIA that helped them get in.
In recent years, as many citizens blame his policies for unlivable wages, widespread hunger, and a crippling economy.
Thank you.
It's the reason why millions have fled the country.
And then they came over here. I'm just being fictitious. They came over here and we in the same situation. We ain't in the same situation. Tell me I'm lying. Just tell me I'm lying.
Now, of the 45,000 new arriving migrants that have relocated to Chicago are from Venezuela. Now, depending on who wins this election, some say will determine whether those migrants return to their home country or if more decide to leave. One thing most of the local Venezuelans can agree on, they want change.
Today, we're fed up. There's 8.9 million Venezuelans that have left Venezuela and have migrated all over the world to find a better life. Many of them have not been able to find a better life. As a matter of fact, many of them have died trying to find a better life. So today, we really want these elections to happen in the most pacific way possible, the most democratic way possible, for us to find the freedom that Venezuela deserves.
So what I'm hearing, it seems like they want United States to be the police of Venezuela and go over there and be, I'm be honest, be Captain Save-A-Ho, like we always supposed to do when we can't even get our election together and things like that. So we have the Venezuelans that's over here that was protesting around that time of the DNC. Also, this was a threat. GOP leaders threatened to send buses with migrants to Chicago during the DNC. I don't know if y'all saw this, but this is where the political play come in. And that's why we have to be very, very funny and particular about who we put in positions of leadership. We cannot fall for the sloganary, for the good talking. We have to look at their policies, how they move, and who they're connected to. So let's listen to this, because they use this in the midst of everything that we're talking about today. This is the political, what do they call, politics that's going on in the background, where I remember we said they was going to send them to suburban areas, but just because the Democrats was there in Chicago, you had people allegedly saying they were going to send more immigrants there, migrants, to protest and cause an issue.
Till the start of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, city leaders are signaling they're ready for anything thrown at them.
One big question looms. Will the governor of Texas flood the city with buses filled with migrants? Political reporter Chris Ty is here now with what we should expect. A lot of moving parts here, Joe and Erica, and the final countdown to next week. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has been shipping migrants here for 2 years, for almost as long.
He did. He is. Y'all see what's going on? He's not playing. They're playing. They're using their resources to get him out of here. And it's working, and it's not illegal because the federal immigration laws. This is like a sanctuary country now. Okay.
There's been an expectation he would use Chicago's week in the spotlight to double down. While the flow of migrants to Chicago has stopped cold since Christmas, just today he's signaled he's not done.
Those buses will continue to roll until we finally secure our border.
He said it at the RNC and tweeted it again today. We won't stop until the nation secures the border. The buses to Chicago from Texas have slowed.
Where are you guys coming from? Venezuela.
And those studying the crisis say there are 3 reasons a full court press next week during the DNC is unlikely. First, the number of illegal migrants has fallen from 300,000 last December to 83,000 this June.
There's less opportunity actually to find enough people to be bused to Chicago. So that's a big change.
Muzaffar Chushti of the Nonpartisan Migration Policy Institute says, number 2, migrants have learned time allowed in shelters here up north has been slashed since last year.
The fact that news travels fast in the right migrant communities also mean people will not be willing to come to Chicago.
And 3, the improved numbers at the border and Republicans' refusal to sign a bipartisan border bill makes it politically trickier.
I think the Republican argument on this has been blunted quite a bit.
Do you expect there to be buses of migrants coming to Chicago next week?
I think the governor of Texas will make attempts to see whether he could create a spectacle, whether he can be successful in sending large number of people in buses in a very sort of high profile way is doubtful.
And the reason why this was a political maneuver is because I think he wanted to show Kamala and the Democrats what you're doing. Like this is what you're doing. You want them, here you go. And I'm not saying this was the right thing to do, but he did send some more migrants into the city at that time to show them like, here you go. And the only reason why I think the number went down of migrants at some point in Chicago, because it got cold as hell. It got cold and the migrants was like, even in New York. But when it got hot, the buses started flowing again. So now we're going to get into how Chicago residents feel about the city's response to migrant surge. There has been flare-ups going on. There has been people talking at city council meetings saying, hey, we got to stop this now, not right now, but yesterday. Okay, so this is how the Black community feels about this, because there hasn't been proper resources going into the Black community. I'm going to be honest, some of the programs that we have in the Black community, a majority are funded by us. We have to fund our own programs. I mean, as far as like extracurricular activities for our kids, what they were talking about at one point where they were trying to take them 2 places in Chicago. It was a school. They were trying to close for a day or 2 to house the migrants temporary, and the residents pushed back. And then it was a park, and the Black residents said, no, we don't have anything for our kids. This is the only thing we have is this recreational park and center. Don't bring them here. So let's listen to what they have to say and why they're standing up. This is brought to you by PBS.
The National Convention next week has been at the center of the national conversation on U.S. immigration policy. Laura Barone Lopez is there and has this report.
All of us is to be human, is to face adversity in our lives.
They talking about it at the church, and we're going to show you the different places. They talking about it at the college. This is a conversation that's starting to spread, and I'm grateful that it is starting to come to the forefront, because what I have seen this election, in this year and the last election, we didn't have any agenda for us. We didn't have our voice heard correctly. So if this is one of the main issues, this is something that we have to address as the Black community, because this was something that was predicted in the 80s by this famous philosopher. Y'all may not know him, Amos Wilson. He is a sociologist and a philosopher and economist. And these are back in Newark. We will find a lot of these freedom fighters in Jersey and New York, that's where a lot of flare-ups came. So we even about the Moors and things like that. So I have met a lot of or heard of a lot of these people who were bringing out these philosophies. And one of his things he said, and I don't remember the year, and I have the video up, and I'm gonna put it in the description, where basically he said that we were going to be replaced by AI, that it was going to be a time that the Black working class or the Black vote would not even count because of immigration and migration. This is exactly what he said. He said it is going to replace us on top of AI and technology. He went into even talking about how contractor jobs will be the main jobs and that it will only be mostly service jobs for Americans. And he said it was going to get so bad that it wasn't going to trickle into all Americans. Because he was talking to us as Black people in New York when he was doing his speeches. And I'm going to show you that in our description. But he expanded the conversation and said, go ahead. And they think that they're doing this against us, bringing the migrants in to replace us. And they're going to end up replacing their own people. Okay, and bringing in migrants who may not have the same political agenda. I promise you, when I listened to that years ago, I was like, wow, that's not going to happen. He was like, even technical jobs like healthcare, like nursing. And I was like, what? And guess what I've been doing? I've been a contract nurse. Being a contract nurse is more suitable for them because they don't have to pay insurance to you. You see what I'm saying? That's off on you. You can be let go more easily. And it's a more disposable working class. You see what I'm saying? Shout out to Amos Wilson. He predicted this. The churches are talking about it. Let's go.
Concord Missionary Baptist Church on Chicago's South Side has transformed in the last 2 years. The historically Black church now offers live translation during its services to accommodate a growing number of Spanish-speaking congregants who fled their homes for the United States. Kenneth Phelps is the church's pastor.
They're here, they're hungry, and they're hurting, and they're in our community. And, from a Christian standpoint, we've always welcomed the visitors and strangers.
People like Balexi Lugo, who are strangers no more.
They need God.
She now lives in a studio apartment with her 2 daughters after spending 6 months in a city-run shelter when they arrived from Venezuela.
It's good to feel that you have peace, and Pastor Phelps has helped me a lot with that. Any problem that we have or anything we need, he always tells us to let him know and that he'll take care of us. I feel at home.
You know they're going to come into our community and feel at home because we always do that. We always bring others into our community. If you are privatized and you're going through some type of tyranny, Black people will bring you in. I promise you, it's not a joke. You are more welcome in the Black community than you think. Even white people who have come into the Black community, they get welcomed with open arms. And that end up spreading our resources thinner and thinner. And I do empathize with them because going through what they go through, and we think what we go through, they need Jesus. They need Lord. They need the Holy Spirit. They need some peace in their life. So the churches has been opening their doors to them and their resources.
But the integration of these new members has not been easy.
Many of the community weren't welcoming.
Phelps says community outrage erupted early last year when the city opened a shelter for migrants at a defunct elementary school around the corner from the church. The community had been told that it would be a job training center.
We were told that, the city didn't have resources to do that. And then somehow, mysteriously, magically, you find monies to open up a shelter. It just didn't set right with the community.
Problem.
Over the last 2 years, Chicago has spent nearly $500 million on aiding migrants. It's one of several Democratic-led cities targeted by Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who has bused more than 100,000 migrants in a politically motivated move to shift the nation's attention to immigration.
Okay, we're not going to watch the full 7 minute because it's going to kind of reiterate what we've been talking about. But then I wanted you to get an idea of the church's response to them, how they're kind of looking at this like a double-edged sword, because as Christians, people who believe in Jesus Christ, even me as a Hebrew, my thing is to open up and help. But it's like, damn, at the detriment of us, what are we going to do here? So This is the church response, and then we're going to get into tempers flare at community meeting about housing migrants in Chicago College. Okay, this was the school. No, but one was not just the college. It was actually like a middle school too. But this is another one that highlight the college. It's just ridiculous. Hold on 1 second, guys. Please hit the like button. I appreciate you guys being here with me. We're going to try to most likely try to do this every Sunday if we can. Where this will be our news hour of, more serious trending topics. We're going to give you at least an hour and a half to 2 of a particular subject or more than one subject. Today, we're focusing on a migrant issue in Chicago. We have to. I've been waiting to update you guys on this. Okay, so let's listen to what they had to say as tempers flare at a city council meeting.
Officials tonight said Daly College is an ideal location because it's move-in ready and a fraction of the cost of a hotel. But many in the crowd didn't want to hear it.
When do citizens of the United States of America come first?
On the southwest side, city officials getting an earful.
How about this? Give them all these politicians' addresses and put them in their backyards, in their basements, in their houses.
This meeting at Richard J. Daley College comes as the city, starting as early as this weekend, prepares to use this gymnasium until August 1st and 2 auxiliary classrooms on the campus through the end of November to shelter more than 400 migrants.
This is about being human and providing humane spaces for them.
Girl, I wish I was a fly on the wall. Let them finish talk, because it's more than just about being human. We're human, but we're realistic. We're realistic here.
For my country, we need to give the immigrants a chance.
But the debate igniting anger about how the city for decades has treated its poor.
We do not take care of our own people. There's no resources taken from our shelter system and the housing within our shelter system, as well as outreach agencies who providing services on the street.
And as you know, she's lying. She's not telling the truth. We just showed you. We're going to show you where the next issue went. This even rolled into the police station where they were housing them. So there was an issue with the shelters. There were allegedly, we saw 23 shelters and they were shutting down 5 and rotating migrants. But we're not talking about the Americans that's homeless. Not one time are we talking about the American population mixed in with the migrants, what they're doing. You don't hear none of that being talked about. That is alarming to me. It is, because they're Americans there with them. If they not, then they would be on the street. I don't know.
This gathering comes a day after the city council at a heated meeting approved $51 million in emergency migrant funding. That money only expected to last through the end of this month.
What? $51 million are only supposed to last for 1 month for the migrants. And they said that the building that they were supposed to do for a resource center, they were trying to turn it into a migrant shelter. And then prior to that, they said that they didn't have the funds to make the resource center, but then turned it into migrant shelter. We just kind of just showing you consecutively. So, because you know how they break up the narrative and you're like, oh, this is what happening. Oh, this is what happened. No, we're going to do the whole series so you can see it here. And then you kind of get a bigger picture, because they kind of sectionize things. You see what I'm saying? If you would have just watched this, you wouldn't have been thinking about what we just talked about of the 23 shelters, how they were displacing them, not talking about us as Americans, 5 shelters being shut down. You saying none of the resources from Chicago urban neighborhoods are going towards them. $51 million came in and is supposed to be going in 1 month.
Speak very much about the money. It's our money. Every dollar you give is our money.
Last weekend, migrants began moving into Wright College on the northwest side. Officials say that's reduced the number of migrants at police stations from more than 800 last week to fewer than 640 now.
Let's stop right there, because now we're going to show you what happened at the police station as they were putting them out the police station. It gets better, y'all. It gets better. So I pray that this is informative for you guys and educational, so y'all can realize what's going on in and around Cook County and other urban neighborhoods and suburban neighborhoods. You guys are affected by this if you like it or not, because even though you got the Texas governor busing them to Democratic places, they still find their places to Colorado, going up in there, running up on stuff. Yo, in the mountains, they got a lot of trafficking going on in Colorado even before this, allegedly. That's like a cesspool, allegedly.
Right now, migrants continue to flow into the city as frustration is mounting among Chicago residents. In just about an hour, a protest is set to kick off outside of South Shore High School.
And earlier this afternoon, hundreds of migrants reportedly arrived at O'Hare Airport as we take a live look at the building right near Terminal 5, where
Now, hold on 1 second. This was 11 months ago, because I haven't given y'all the dates of this. This was 11 months ago. These things were happening, okay? 11 months ago, Chicago police station, they locked out, video show migrants locked out of the police station. They were trying to get them out. They're trying to get them out.
where a number of families have been staying.
And here's the latest data from city officials. It shows Chicago shelters housing more than 9,800 migrants, while more than 3,000 still await placement. More than 17,000 migrants have come to Chicago since last year. And all this happens as we found a surprise at police stations downtown.
The buildings where dozens of migrants had been living were cleared this afternoon with the doors locked. Casey Cronus was there. She joins us on her way to check out the situation at O'Hare. Casey.
Hey, Anthony and Natalie, that's right. We will keep you posted on the situation at O'Hare as soon as we arrive. But about an hour and a half ago, take a look. We visited Chicago Police District 1, located at 17th and State. There, with the help of our photographer, Raphael.
Y'all telling me y'all don't see this going on down there? Oh, I'm gonna have a surprise for y'all, because later on this month, we're gonna hit the tent cities in Atlanta. Yes, I was driving by there and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna put my hard hat on, put my big girl panties on, and I'm about to go out here and talk to these homeless people. They don't mind talking to me. I talk to people who are schizophrenic, all types of stuff. Be looking forward to that, because I'm not gonna just show you what's happening in areas near you. I'm gonna show you what's happening out here on top of this crooked ass government. We're gonna go into Fulton County in the next couple of weeks, and I'm going to show you all of the people living under the daggone bridge, and I'm going to have some interviews with them and see what's going on with them and how they feel about the migrant issue here in Georgia and what's going on with them in Atlanta. Okay, so look forward to that. We have a great lineup coming up here for you guys. Please like and subscribe to the Levi family. We love you guys. We appreciate you. We welcome all open mind, critical thinkers, people who enjoy to, kind of think out the box, talk about it, and leave the spirit of offense alone. Okay. If you that type of person, you are welcome here. You are part of the Levi family. Hit the like button and subscribe. We have a lot to show you. We have a lot of action packed. So shout out to Levi Productions. We're going to introduce Levi Productions to you guys and all the many platforms that we have coming up in the next couple of weeks. We got some surprises for you, okay? Thank you for being here with Grace Levi, okay?
Who translated for us. We spoke with a migrant who says he ventured here from Venezuela. Like so many others, he's been staying in the lobby of that police station. But he tells us this morning,
that's a Chicago police station. Did anybody see this in person?
Officials at the district moved all of the migrants outside along with their belongings. When we got there, the doors were locked and we weren't even allowed inside the lobby. The migrant we spoke with told us that most of the women and children were picked up and taken to other shelters, but it's unclear where those who are left are supposed to go. And
all right, we're going to stop right there. And I think that shortly happened after, and you can look this story up, when the migrants in the police station started fighting each other and they were stabbing each other. Not allegedly. Okay, I was like, yo, what is going on here? Now, this is what some migrants have to say about the shelter and the food that they're getting. This is brought to you by WGN News, okay? As the city spends millions of dollars on food for migrant shelter, some asylum seekers are now buying their own meals. Let's see why, okay? I told you, after a while, they're going to realize what they came into, and they're going to get pissed. And that's where we're going to get into the gangs versus the gangs, okay? They're going to try to get resources.
Issues this afternoon in migrant shelters other than measles, the condition of the food at many of the facilities.
Yeah, some migrants are now buying their own meals, even as the city spends millions to feed them.
Lourdes Duarte has been looking into that, and she has tonight's WGN Investigates. Lourdes?
Hi, guys. Yeah, the city has three.
What I'm saying is where they get the money from. Somebody has asked me before when I talked about the black card that that lady on TikTok had, talking about, how do you know it's real? And da 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 da. They got some money to buy food.
Priorities when it comes to meals at these migrant shelters, make them high quality, culturally relevant, and nutritious. Well, city-approved vendors are meeting those food standards, but residents are not happy and have come up with their own solution to fix the food.
Outside the largest migrant shelter in the city, lunchtime has become a business. Watch as a car delivering Venezuelan soup rolls up. They aren't donations or food deliveries by the city. The makeshift business is run by former shelter residents who saw a need as complaints about free meals came up.
Horrible que a veces la dan picante, ¿cómo se ocurre de darle una comida a los niños así?
New arrivals are choosing to use their own money to pay for food, even as the city signs multi-million-dollar contracts with two different businesses to feed them. WGN Investigates took a look at those contracts and payments. 77 Communities Meal Service has already been paid $3.7 million to feed migrants, but could stand to make as much as $45 million. A second company, 14 Parish, has received $3.8 million according to city records, with the potential to make more than $57 million. The residents who are choosing to skip the free food and eat outside gave us images of the city-provided meals, saying they may look fine but taste terrible. This isn't the first time complaints are made. The city even switched vendors earlier this year.
That look better than the food that we get. Oh, damn. I thought they said they like, this is not our food. That look better than they give in regular homeless shelter.
They're hoping to address the issues, but trouble has come.
Did they really show us a meal that looked like that? They ain't look too bad to me. Hold up. I'm trying to see if I can get it unblurry. What? You talking about peas and
City
rice?
even switched vendors earlier this year, hoping to address the issues, but trouble has come up again.
Shit, if I walk millions of miles, I'll be okay with that. But that's another thing I want to highlight too, just for us to kind of get into the health side of it. Shout out to Nurses News Network. That is an entity that we have under Levi Productions. We talk about this. The food in America is not totally real food. I'm gonna be honest. People from the islands came here, but not that these immigrants just talking shit. But even my people, like when my grandma went back to Haiti, she did now. I said, Grandma, you eating good? You know, what's going on? It was like we had some issues with electricity and stuff. I said, how the hell y'all getting food? She said, oh, I'm good. We got the mangoes, avocados coming down, and you know, we got green beans, and then they making them fresh. She was like, oh my God, the avocados taste so good. I said, you talking about that cardboard that you try to make me eat when I was a little kid? I'll never eat that. She's like, no. She's like, no, because it's fake. It's America. It's fake. So the food tastes different. And that's why a lot of countries, even though they're called whole countries or whatever you want to call it, and we're talking about how rough they are, their health is a little bit way more better than us. We have the highest rate of diabetes, hypertension, cancer, and everything in the world. Why is that? Because of the food. And the migrants said, hey, to the no. No. They said, we ain't about to eat that right there. All right. So that is some of the flare-ups, some of the issues they're having, the food, the shelter, the men being put out in Chicago. And now we're going to get into Chicago mayors wants to move migrants from downtown shelter to the south side. Please tell me where the south side at. If we got any of my Dalton residents here, you already know what I'm getting at. Okay, this was 4 months ago, NBC Chicago. So basically, I know what I've been showing you been a cumulative of things that has been happening over the months. And now we're kind of getting towards the tail wrap up of our broadcast. Now we're bringing it directly into the south side, and we're going to get into what's actually happening with the gangs to close off. Okay.
Tonight, a plan to move migrants in Chicago from downtown to a temporary migrant shelter in the Bridgeport neighborhood. Well, that's facing some opposition. Residents in the neighborhood say that they are concerned about the proposal that's been put forth by the mayor. NBC5's V. Wynn has more on the plan and why some say it's not a good idea.
Strong reactions tonight from residents after learning Mayor Brandon Johnson is considering plans to open a new temporary migrant shelter in their Southside neighborhood.
And he don't know where to put him. Why would you put him in our neighborhood?
Well, why don't we go by your house?
All of that money that he's giving them, we've been begging for years.
We've lived here our whole life. We have a lot of bad things that happen here already. We do not need this. We just do not.
Located just blocks away from Guaranteed Rate Field, the proposed building near Canal and Pershing is in the city's 11th ward.
Look at where it's at. It's hid in the back. Why is that a good location? We have no amenities here as it is.
Alderwoman Nicole Lee issued this letter to constituents yesterday saying she was notified earlier this week and met with the mayor on Thursday. She says the city wants to move migrants staying at the Standard Club near the Dirksen Federal Building to her ward before the Democratic National Convention.
This is just insane. It doesn't make sense. Keep them downtown. Keep them, I don't know. I mean, this is not our problem.
The alderwoman made it clear she is against the proposed plan, citing safety and location concerns and lack of justification for the move. She says, quote, "As our city grapples with this unprecedented influx of migrants, it is crucial that we handle the migrant crisis safely, responsibly, and with full transparency. The well-being of our communities must be the top priority."
All we want to do is house our veterans, and they're getting kicked to the side for the people who didn't do anything for this country. Yet those men and women honorably served. They should be coming first.
Alderwoman Nicole Lee was not available for an on-camera interview today. The alderwoman is asking the mayor's office that if they decide to move forward with this plan, she wants them to hold community meetings prior to signing the lease, giving her constituents an opportunity to ask any questions and to address their concerns about the site. Reporting in Canaryville, V1 NBC5 News.
Now, why I feel like this is important,
Let me show you.
it is very important to highlight this, is because this, us as citizens and the people in your town, you in Dorton, out of Dalton, Thornton, the whole tri-state area, we have to talk to our elected officials. At least this alderman has been bringing it to their attention, like, nope, we can't do this. You have to talk to us about it. We have to bring it to the community and figure out what we're going to do before we sign any leases, do anything. This is why you have to know who your alderwoman is, alderman is, your trustees is, how your mayor mindset is. Does that make sense? The supervisors. That's why we have to be so particular on who we actually get in, because we need people who stands on values and not about to fold. Okay. And then we end up in situations like this where people are questioning, where is the money going? Okay. So this is lawsuit shows how migrant funds are being spent in Chicago. I got 2 clips because that's what's happening right now in Dalton and Thornton. And the migrants are not even there. It's the corruption for me. But if you don't know that the person you have in there is corrupted, or you didn't do your research, or you just went with the gang mentality and not ask no questions, don't know nothing about any other candidates, I'm just going this way, this is what you may have. I'm just going to be honest. Let's go.
Now to NBC5 investigates, which for months has followed the money trail tied to Chicago's migrant mission. Total spending now tops more than $400 million.
Now, despite the creation of a city spending website, it's still not exactly clear where all of that money has gone. In this follow-up report, investigative reporter Bennett Haberly uncovers some new information not shared.
I don't know if y'all heard it because I thought I had it on the screen. My face all to the side watching it. Let's go.
Now to NBC5 investigates, which for months has followed the money trail tied to Chicago's migrant mission. Total spending now tops more than $400 million.
Now, despite the creation of a city spending website, it's still not exactly clear where all of that money.
And we still don't got, we got homelessness in America. We got the job market that's crazy, and $400 million in one state. I'm sorry, I'm freaking out. That's me freaking out this morning. Okay.
Money has gone. In this follow-up report, investigative reporter Bennett Haberly uncovers some new information not shared by the city.
Consider these numbers. More than 6,000 people still live in city-run migrant shelters. That means costs are still adding up. Since August of 2022, the city of Chicago has spent more than $400 million, according to the city's spending website. Nearly $253 million went to one private company, Kansas-based Favored Healthcare Staffing, which staffs the shelters. Another $76 million went to Equitable Social Solutions. That company partnered with another called ReloShare, which helped identify and sign lease agreements with property owners of the buildings that eventually became the migrant shelters.
That's where a number of those leases are.
But when we asked the city months ago for copies of these lease agreements, we were given just 9 out of 27. The use of these private companies has helped mask from public view where the public dollars have flowed. What we didn't know until now is how much the property owners of the migrant shelters were earning. But thanks to a new lawsuit, we're being provided some more clarity. A lending company filed this lawsuit last month against 2 Chicago developers, alleging they did not make it clear when they signed a loan agreement that the building in the West Loop would be used to house migrants. What is not in dispute is that the owners of the Ogden shelter are paid $150,000 a month by ReloShare as part of a use agreement. That means in a year's time, they'd receive more than $1.8 million.
You see what I'm saying? And you see how these private companies can be incentivized to actually pick migrants over the American people? Oh, okay. Let's finish listening. That's why we have to know who is in position and what their actual views are. Are they for the people? Would they be affected just like us?
The lease agreement also calls for additional payments of up to $400,000 if the number of migrants inside the Ogden shelter exceeds 650. The latest figures show more than 700 people still live here. If there are public dollars involved, shouldn't the public know where they flow?
100%.
Back in March, Alderman Andre Vasquez, the chair of the City Council's Migrant Committee, told us aldermen themselves have had a hard time accounting for all the spending. That's still the question that's out. When we attempted to ask Mayor Brandon Johnson about this at the time, he said this.
Again, we're meeting you right where you are.
Were it not for this new lawsuit, the public would have no idea how much these property owners are earning.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you.
We pressed the mayor about this last week and asked if he would consider adding the information to the city's website. He said this.
We have given an accurate account of how dollars have been spent.
That's it? Is there anything that would preclude your administration from sharing that level of detail?
There's no information that has been kept from you.
Johnson then reiterated talking points he's made before, how he's renegotiated contracts to save taxpayer money, and how Congress has failed to provide additional financial relief. He also doubled down, incorrectly stating that all spending information is available.
That information is available to you, sir.
Not all of it, though, is, sir. I mean, that's
Can you
the
give
point.
me a specific example of what's not available?
The Ogden shelter in the West Loop, that's what's spelled out in this lawsuit, that they get $150,000 just for being the property owner per month. Nowhere is that available on the city spending website. My question, again, is simply, is there anything that would preclude you from including that level of detail? You guys have said you're transparent. Why not show it?
All of the information related to the spending to this mission is available.
You see him? Don't he sound like a Tiffany Hilliard? Don't he sound like a Tiffany Hilliard? They all took a clip from the same boat. Redundant bullshit. So you guys keep on pushing these lawsuits, keep on pushing these freedom of information requests, and also your subpoena power. Okay, it takes the people and take organization, us organizing and getting this information out there. Because you see what he's saying? Vote his ass out, allegedly. I ain't there, but vote his ass out. Okay, that he got to go. He done rub Grace Levi wrong. Okay. Here we are on the south side, hit with over a $10,000 property tax. Our government is up. Yes, Javon, welcome and thank you for being here. I'm glad that I'm able to share this information with you, and this is why we have to be extra picky on who we deal with and put in there, because that slick talking, everything is good, and they talk well. Nigga's a con artist. He's a con artist. He said, could you name one thing that we don't have on the website? He said, yeah, $150,000 that they get a month just to be the owner of the building. He said, everything we do is transparent. That was your response? That was your response? That's why I be sick of it. Let's keep it moving. Chicago resident expressed frustration over the $460 million spent on migrants instead of locals. Let's go. And then we're going to start getting into let me see. It says, are they lying to us? Hold on. We still got a few more to go, y'all, but they're short clips. And they say, are they lying to us? Chicago residents go off on aldermen over migrant spending. So it's different in different places. You see one alderman like, hey, we're doing this. The other alderman like, no, this is going on. We're going to move. We're going to get to it. So Chicago residents expressed frustration over the $460 million.
Immigration is one of the top 2 issues, according to our polls, that voters really care about. And here at the DNC, the only time it's been mentioned has been to attack former President Trump. But there has been no acknowledgement about how the migrant crisis has affected cities like right here in Chicago. For the last 2 years, more than 46,000 migrants have come to this city, and they have been sheltered in airports and police stations and makeshift shelters. And a lot of Chicagoans that we have spoken to, well, they feel resentful, especially those who live in the black.
Y'all hear the word resentful. This is what's starting to flare up. Okay.
Black and Hispanic communities, because so many resources, $460 million so far, have been shifted and diverted to migrants and away from them.
We have our own citizens here who's been in Chicago all their lives, their families, and they're not getting any help.
They need to start with the streets of Chicago first and then help them out.
I have relatives that came from Mexico or wherever, and we all had to struggle, like everything is handed to them on a plate.
I think
that's what I'm saying. Like, this is an American thing. She got an accent. She like, I got people who come from Mexico too, but we had to struggle to do this. This is not about being a friendly neighbor. This is not about hate. This is about realistically a system that is stretched and what they're doing with our American tax money, tax dollars. It's real. It's real. Sometimes I be feeling like I'm a white liberal. I'll be like, baby, but nope. Let's talk about finance. Let's talk about reality. It ain't even a color thing at this point. We had an issue from both sides. Okay. One is doing it just to get the other side looking worse, but you still busting them in because Texas is still a part of the United States. They still coming through. They have to come together collectively with a plan.
Just want to try to regulate as much as possible, try to put some parameters in place to make sure, a specific type of migrant is getting in and not just anybody.
2/3 of the money that Chicago has spent on this crisis has gone towards free healthcare. They've also given out $15,000 free rent stipends to these migrants.
See, $15,000 free rent stipends. Don't think that lady from TikTok was lying about the black card.
Migrants. And look, Chicagoans we spoke to say there's about 500,000 folks here who are living in poverty, and they could use more help.
I could use a $15,000 card. Okay. But then that opens up the gates for socialism. That's a topic that we'll talk about on another broadcast, and that shit is dangerous. Socialism, where people just getting money from the government and the government just printing out money and stretching the dollar. That's what Venezuela the way they are right now. Are y'all lying to us? Chicago residents go off on all the men over migrant spending, and this was 3 weeks ago. So we're getting up to today. Okay, we're moving on up. Y'all know how I like to do comprehensively, so we can make it make sense. Not one-sided. We talking about everybody out here. Hit the like button. We're talking about everything. If I was part of something going wrong, I'd have told them my damn self. Okay, that's how real we are here.
Frustration hit a peak at a city council meeting as aldermen and residents keep clashing over how taxpayer money should be spent on migrants. The council's Immigration and Housing Joint Committee couldn't vote or even start the meeting because some members didn't show up. But people still got to speak during public comment, and Alderman Byron Lopez announced a November referendum where voters can decide if the city should tax millionaires 3% to help migrants.
We get 30% out of our damn taxes. What the? Oh, Jesus. Did they say 3%? You see me, I'm getting upset. Okay. Did they say 3%? I'm praying over here. When we paying 30% taxes out of our paycheck, I'm moving forward. I'm moving forward. I'm getting upset. We're almost done. We got a few more. We're bringing it to a head because now you need to know as of the last few days and weeks what they're doing with the migrants, and still, because I was showing you a lot what has been happening, but now we're rolling up. This is 3 weeks ago news. Okay, so if you watch this from the beginning to end, you're going to see a full layout from maybe starting from I went back 2 years. Okay,
We have 120,000 millionaires who live in the city of Chicago who can pay the fair share, and there are solutions so that we can do both. Care for new neighbors as well as the current neighbors.
Are y'all lying to us? Because, see, we know that the budget stated that you guys spent $400 million on the migrants who are illegal immigrants last year. The city is currently in a $235 million deficit, which means that you guys overspent the budget to pay for people who have not paid any taxes.
CJ Lopez also announced the Colombian president is coming to Chicago on the 21st to recognize the work the city has been doing to help migrants.
The Colombian president, we don't care about that. All right, let's keep it moving. We're getting up to Chicago closes migrant shelters. This is 2 weeks ago. So they were doing it before, trying to figure out how they're going to get these people out of here. And you just put them out there and put them on the streets, I guess. So this is 2 weeks and they're still doing this.
Chicago is making adjustments to its shelter system for new arrivals.
The city, along with the state of Illinois and Cook County, have a strategic plan in place for 2024 to ensure that everybody who needs a bed.
And we're going to watch, the next little clip that shows is what their plan is. They're going to be merging shelters and something with American citizens, okay?
Ed has one. Tia Ewing is standing by with the tales. Tia.
Well, Scott and Dawn, the migrant shelters will close up in October, and the city says this comes at a time when they already have about 5,000 beds that are going unused.
Porque sacaron un poquito de conflay y un poquito de leche.
What 1,000 beds unused? Wait.
You are looking at in front of the lens, people in survival mode. Behind the lens, a migrant mother from Venezuela describing limited food resources inside the shelter in the 2200 block of Halsted Street. It's now one of 3 shelters slated to close. At one point this year, Chicago was caring for more than 12,000 migrants spanning across 24 shelters.
We have continued busing migrants to sanctuary cities across the entire country.
He talking shit. He ain't not be. This is not funny, but he like, yeah, we just gonna ship them around the United States, make this shit a little worse instead of sending the damn bus back across the border. I'm just saying.
And those buses will continue to roll until we finally secure our border.
You see how that's a problem? How are you securing the border where you just letting them come in and you taking them through, spread them out throughout the United States? I will understand if you like, all right, we got the national militia that they was trying to put together, and we're going to train them on how to get these migrants back to their country or across the border and to protect the border. That makes a little bit more sense. You see how this is not a Democrat or Republican thing. This is a whole system approach, and then they're using it against each other, and we're the pawns in the middle that's suffering with this shit. It's like, oh yeah, Texas governor doing this, trying to protect the border. You talking about basically distributing them. You've been distributing them across the United States, sir. That's reality. If you look at it, you have been distributing them across the United States. Chicago officials unveiled plan to merge homeless and migrant shelters into one. And this is where we're going to get into, we're going to have a problem. We're going to have a problem.
At 6, a possible solution to help with Chicago's homeless problem.
Our Andrew Ramos joins us from East Garfield Park. Andrew, the proposed plan merges homeless and migrant shelters.
That's right, and it's called One System Initiative, and it's designed to streamline the way the city of Chicago serves the homeless community and newly arriving migrants all under one comprehensive structure.
Welcome to the close of the first phase of the One System Initiative.
The first phase of the plan unveiled today at a community meeting on the Southwest Side, a report outlining recommendations from multiple community organizations on how to approach this new system, gave insight on some priorities.
The goal is to ensure that every family can have a safe place to sleep, can have food, and can have a shower.
At the top of the list, how the city will approach intakes. Currently, those experiencing homelessness are provided resources through the Salvation Army after a request for a bed is made via 311, while arriving migrants have to report to the landing zone as an initial port of entry. The report recommends an access point available to all those in need 24 hours a day, all year round.
With our current systems, when folks do get the numbers and they do call in, it can take
days
Yep.
to get a spot in the shelter.
Opening neighborhood.
Yep. It was funny because I was just watching this guy who found Jesus. Found Jesus. I'll be watching those. And he like had near-death experience. And he was saying every time he tried to get clean, he would call these shelters and be like, hey, he was jumping from shelter to shelter. But they had to get sponsorship. Some days he couldn't get into the program to rehabilitate himself. So they have sponsorship programs, and that's what she says. Sometimes it takes them up to 7 days to even get into a shelter because of the rotation list. You just kicking them out, and then they come back a few months later. That's an amazing system for the homeless. That's just amazing. I mean, I just think it's wonderful. I'm being sarcastic.
Based transition support centers also a top recommendation, which will aim to provide various resources to residents. Shelter staffing, another focal point, where those with lived experience of either being homeless or have sought asylum are on the front lines navigating residents.
It's very important to try to hire people who have a level of empathy.
Since August of 2022, more than 48,000 migrants have arrived to Chicago.
All right, now we're about to move on, and we're going to get into, I'm going to take that off. Chicago gangbangers rage against newly arriving Venezuelan migrants and Tren de Aragua moving in. Now we get into the meat and butter, and we're starting to get to our end of our broadcast, okay? Now this is where we're having issues coming up. This was brought to you by the New York Post 6 days ago. Let me get it on the screen. All of that, what we went over, is leading to this, guys. So you have to be vigilant and being aware and knowing who is who. Look at this guy. He got a blunt in his hand. You see that? I just noticed that this guy, he like lost his damn mind. Go ahead. I'm going to be his butt. Listen. What is that, a blunt?
Legalities and the criminal activity of these migrants or non-citizens. The city of Chicago is going to go up in smoke, it's going to go up in flame, and it's going to be nothing that the National Guard or our government can do about it when the bloodshed hit the streets.
And I'm going to be honest, it's nothing that nobody could do in Haiti. That's why the Kenyans didn't come to Haiti. They said, oh, shit, the gangs getting together, and it's about to be a problem. It's about to be a problem.
Blacks against migrants.
Zach Massey did time in state prison with Tyrone Muhammad, although he's only 27. He's a leader on the streets and said he's disgusted by the money going to Venezuelan migrants at the expense, he says, of the African-American community.
I finally actually talked to him on the translator app, and he told me all the things that he got going on, how they help him get a car, apartment, clothes, link. So it's just like, I just be looking at it like they ain't got no social security number. Where they come from? He probably not even here legally.
They get right here. They get quick housing, quick funding, food. They get cars with no license. They can't even read English and stuff like that. So they get all these perks when they get here, and we still here starving. So what we gonna do about it? Are y'all gonna listen to our cries?
Corey Rogers was a Blackstone gang member for years. He drove us around the South Side and showed us areas where he said Tren de Aragua and other criminal gangs are setting up shop and what he called showing the flag, which means brandishing their weapons in front of like a housing project.
The migrants that are coming, they're taking over every block right now in this area. Right now, you don't see them because they come out at night. They said they took this courtway over probably by last week. He said it was 100 Venezuelans standing out in the front right here.
Terry, is it an abandoned building? How do they just take it over?
They get when you take over something, you just stand outside, and that's called showing the flag.
What kind of guns?
Semi-automatics, anything you name, you're gonna see it on the street. These boys got so many big guns that if they're 150 pounds, the gun is bigger than them. I swear.
But they know how to handle it, right? They know it. Tell me about the fact that they're criminals, right? This is a criminal element. These aren't just a bunch of Venezuelans that walked over the border and used to be gardeners back home, right?
Right. And they come from the gangland. They come from rougher gangs than us.
One gang member who only gave his name as David.
He kept it real. They come from rougher gangs than us. Let's finish watch this. I had to just stop. I'm gonna let this rock out. This is actually our last clip, because we're going to do a part 2 next Sunday where we're going to get into who is Tren de Aragua, like for real, for real. and how they're affecting each state, okay?
On a particularly dangerous drug dealing corner on the South Side, did not hold back when he talked about the influx of criminal gangs from other countries into Chicago.
The real issue is that America has allowed gangs to enter our country. Gangs that they would consider terrorist groups that are formed here. We are terrorist groups if we're in a gang. They let terrorists in our country.
The Reverend Corey Brooks also said to me he's disgusted with Democratic policies and said that Black Lives Matter, for example, has never reached out to help him or anyone else trying to improve conditions on the South Side.
Yeah, that's why, don't be mad at me. I never really supported Black Lives Matter. I used to sit back and watch because I'm like, yo, something not right. And we could do a whole presentation on the beginning and the outcome of Black Lives Matter. And that is not a reflection of us Black people. It was not funded by us. The agenda was not for us or by us. And that money was swindled and laundered and wasted, and not allegedly, to buy houses for the directors and the people that was over the Black Lives Matter. Didn't open one shelter, didn't do one roll call for all the mothers that was affected by police brutality. Not they get a check once a year, they get a party, nothing. So yes, I will say that, okay? And I'm gonna keep it real. That has nothing to do with us as the Black community. I push for us to do grassroots movement, but that was not funded by us.
Chicago is a blue city. Illinois is a blue state. There's no doubt about it that the majority of our neighborhood, they're going to continue to vote Democrat until they wake up.
What did I
The
say?
good news is that there are a lot of people who are responding and waking up and saying, listen, we're not going to take this. We're not going to stand for this. We're going to vote differently. And they're now accepting some of the values that I hold dear and some of the values that the conservative Republican Party holds so dear. And so for a lot of people, it's not about the person, it's about the policies that we're fed up with. And as a result, I think this is going to be the largest amount of people who have voted for the Republican president in Chicago that we've seen.
I also spoke to one Venezuelan man who was so scared of being identified that he put a hoodie on and refused to face the camera. He told me in Spanish that he had to flee the building where he was being housed because a Venezuelan criminal gang took it over. He said if they knew he was talking, they'd end his family's life back in Venezuela with one bullet. You know, what struck me the most about our week in Chicago was how intelligent and self-aware these gang members and ex-gang members are about their community. You understand when you talk to them that joining a gang and making big money selling drugs is often too tempting to resist when faced with the lack of other real opportunities to make money. And for a place known mostly in news stories for being bloody and violent at night, the area is like a village during the daytime. Everyone knows each other, and believe it or not, there's a friendly vibe. But we spoke to a lot of people and their patience is being stretched thin. I would not be surprised to see the gangs here taking action once the Venezuelans try to get a real foothold here.
All right, we're going to follow up with...
Yeah, they just send over.
Okay, immigrants are taking over to Pennsylvania now. We're going to follow up because we're already at the 2-hour point, and you know I can keep going and going, and I'll just giving y'all more and more information. We're going to be doing a part 2. And then in part 2, we're going to be talking about in detail who is Tren de Aragua, who is the MS-13, and what states they have hit and what these people are talking about. So we're going to do a tri-state broadcast. As you just saw, something popped up about Florida, New York, Ohio, Colorado, Florida. It is a lot of states that's suffering from this. Texas, and we have to bring this to the forefront because guess what? At the end of the day, guess what we all are right now? As long as we're on this piece of land right here, we all American. And we need to figure out what type of future we're going to have for our generations to come. There may be a possibility that we don't even have Social Security for them. Okay? So these are the things that we're going to be talking about here, keeping the conversation grown and sexy, you know, a little bit uncensored and all of that. Okay, so I want to thank you for being here with Grace Levi today. We're going to actually come back later on this evening at 6 p.m. and talk about our infamous top story, Dalton. Actually, we're going to be talking about Thornton and Dalton today. There's a lot of things that has been going on there that I have to play catch up with our audience, as well as we're going to read the case that actually got Mayor Henyard's goons restricted from being placed in positions that she wasn't supposed to. Okay. So with that being said, I want to say thank you so much for being here with Grace Levi. Listening to our topic today, intertwining. Leave your comments below. Again, this platform is growing. We're going to keep the conversation diverse. You'll be able to speak your piece. We don't have the gang mentality here. We want you guys to think critically and come up with ideas. We want to hear what's going on out there by you so we can learn what to do over here. Because at the end of the day, we are all Americans. How about that? All right, let's get this on the screen.
Because you are that, you are capable, you are gifted, and you are so unique. All of the things that you may hate about yourself are your strengths. It's okay to be soft. It's okay to be opinionated. It's okay to be different. And it's so okay to just be you. The world awaits to receive you.
The real estate market often seems like a distant world where only an elite of experts is successful. In a time of so much uncertainty in the air and bad news, realist investing can seem intimidating. But today, I want to tell you that if you make the right decision today, you can enter the real estate market from the back door. Bad credit record? No credit at all? Do you dread the idea of having a home loan? Do you dream of owning investment properties? You are in the right place and right time because we have created a program which is a tax lien and deed investment online course of only 14 hours. This course is specially designed for people like you who have big dreams. You will learn at your own pace and everything from your home computer. This is your chance. Join our membership for $19.99 a year. What are you waiting for? Visit our website primetimehomebuyerBuyback.org and sign up today for course access.